everyone, and welcome back to the Copilot Compass, where each week we take a deep dive into Microsoft 365 Copilot. As always, I have the pleasure of being joined by my esteemed colleague, fellow Copilot enthusiast, and resident smart guy, Logan.
Thanks, Grant. Happy to be here.
Logan, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit more about what they can expect from this week's episode?
Yeah, so as always, we'll get started with the question of the week, and then we'll get into our topic, which is Copilot for HR professionals. So we're going to be covering a few use cases for, how HR departments can really utilize Copilot. And so make sure you stay tuned to the end for a sneak preview of what we have coming out next, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
Awesome. Excited for this one. I think HR is a really good starting place for a lot of organizations that are wondering, okay, where do I get started with AI and especially in particular, generative AI, and HR is a great one. So excited for this topic. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's get into our question of the week. And remember, you can submit your own question by leaving a comment on this video or emailing the email address in the description. So this week, our question is, what role does Copilot play in boosting digital literacy in non-tech users?
Yeah. Good question. I think Copilot has a unique ability to take the complicated, make it simplistic. I think um, one tool that is available to you is, to take something complicated, like maybe it's a website you're looking at, or even just copying in some text and saying, can you simplify this for me, or explain this to somebody, explain this in a way that somebody that doesn't have a technical background understand, and it can kind of help you translate that down. When it comes to like data and stuff like that too, there's the kind of chat with your data experience that you can get in, Excel, PowerPoint, all those good things. Like I think that's another, really valuable one. I think really it's going to make, some of these things that were digitally a little bit too complicated for a lot of like business and non-technical users, and it's going to make it a little bit more available. You could think of it almost like a translation tool, if you will. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that popped into my mind was Excel, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
And like I use Copilot in Excel quite a bit. And it's really helpful for, when there's a certain, way you want your data to appear or do something with your data, but you just don't know, the formulas. And because, there's a lot of them in Excel, and
Yeah.
it can get a little bit complicated. So, if you don't have that Excel experience, Copilot is so helpful, and it can really also do, kind of teach you, because it kind of explains, step by step how it's going about this process. So I think that's probably like one of the biggest use cases that always pops up in my head about, yeah, like helping out non-technical users. Yeah, specifically with Excel.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I think like, I mean, if I'm completely transparent, like typically if I have a complicated Excel formula prior to Copilot, I just ask you to figure it out for me. But like, otherwise I'm gonna have to like, search the web for a formula and then try to figure out like, maybe I find a site that has some instructions on how I actually implement that formula in Excel. And, sometimes Excel is updated since then. So some of the functionality they're giving you step by step isn't right. So that's a really good point. Using Copilot and Excel to be able to, you know, coach it on what type of things you're looking for, and then letting it do the math for you. And, from the literacy perspective too, like when I think literacy, I'm thinking retention and something you can, do again.
Mm.
I do think like it's cool that it shows you the math, like it doesn't just say, okay, here's the number. It's like, here's the number, but here's also how I got there. And so, if it's a formula you're thinking of using again, or you're just interested in what the formula actually is, really cool tool for that. So, good question.
Yeah.
Ready to talk about HR?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so we're excited today to talk to you about HR. Usually in our jobs, we're not excited to talk to people in HR, but very excited to share some Copilot scenarios for HR at least. And I think it's an exciting one just because when we go talk with companies, it's not like they're like, hey, Copilot's awesome. Let me get M365 Copilot licenses for everybody in my organization today. Like yeah, there can be a lot of sticker shock with that. What people are choosing to do instead is say, let's find a group or a department or a unit that, is maybe they're a little more tech savvy or they have a lot of use cases for the stuff. So let's start there and then, kind of take our adoption practices there, review those and see what we might want to change or improve for the next group, identify good use cases there. And then as that starts to be successful, start to kind of expand and grow and grow. So, and HR is a really great place to start. There's a lot of good use cases there, a lot of really effective use cases there, and we are going to show you a few of them today. So we've got 3 demos for you, and I do also want to share kind of one that'd be more of like a verbal thing that we're not going to demo per se, but the 3 demos we're going to do, we're going to show you how to create an ESAT survey with Copilot, and then talk about how you can also use Copilot to interpret the results once you get them. Then we're going to talk about a really good one, which is what I call policy into presentation. So you kind of have a long policy document or something that's more complicated and detailed out of necessity. I mean, policy has to be detailed, but then you also want to be able to kind of take that policy and maybe present it to a group or to the employees. We'll show you a really good, easy way to get started with that first draft of that presentation. And then lastly, we're going to talk about one that really good use case in talent acquisition. So we'll talk to you in this. The great part with this one is this does not require you to have an M365 Copilot license. If your organization has just enabled the free version, which is Copilot Chat, you can take advantage of this. Again, really, really helpful, really effective. It's not only going to make you operate quicker and more efficiently, but it's going to improve your ability to conduct interviews and create really effective JDs. So, yeah, we're going to share those 3 with you. The other one, we're not going to take the time to demo this for you today. We have done SharePoint agents in another episode. So please just look back to our library and go find some of those if you're interested in seeing the details of this, or shoot us a comment or reach out to us with a message and let us know if you'd like to see this one done again. But basically, there's a couple of really good like SharePoint agents that you can stand up that are really helpful. An example might be an onboarding buddy. So we've all been in this scenario. You're starting out at a new company. You just switched roles. There's a major life change that's happened here. You've got new colleagues that you're going to, if it's not a remote environment, you're going into a new office. There's a new commute. And on top of all that, you're having to figure out there's new benefits packages, new health insurance plans. There's new contacts to reach out to when you have questions or need support. There's all of this stuff is getting thrown at you all at once while, oh, by the way, you're also trying to learn how to do your new job.
Yeah.
So super complicated, very unrealistic for us to be able to expect that somebody amongst all of these new things happening remembers exactly what was discussed on this particular health insurance benefit. So what you can do is you can kind of stand all these documentations and all these material up into like a single SharePoint folder, and then basically have a quick and easy, it take you 5 minutes to create it, like a little Q&A agent that you can deploy that will allow these new hires or even, people that work at the organization to go in and ask questions about their benefits, and effective for the employee because they're getting an answer immediately. And effective for your HR teams too, because they're, not having to answer the same questions over and over and over and over again with new hires. So that's a really effective one. You can also stand these up actually, like if you're a large organization and you have like HR teams that are, like picking up the phone and answering questions like on the spot, as people dial in with questions about their, HR related questions. You can stand up a little agent similar in nature, but putting in like all of your policies in one folder and having, if somebody asks a question that the HR employee does not know the answer to, they can kind of quickly interact with this agent and ask policy related questions. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, can't I just do that with Copilot Chat if I already have it grounded in work data? In theory, yes. The difference here with an agent is instead of asking it to look in for a needle in a stack of needles, you're asking it to look for a needle in a tiny, tiny, tiny stack of needles. Like you're simplifying down the knowledge base it's pulling from into just these policy folders. Don't look on the internet. Don't look in other OneDrive folders that maybe have archived policies that are outdated. Just look right here. So, anyways, we're not going to demo that for you today. If you're interested in learning more about that, check out our previous episode. We've covered SharePoint agents and Copilot agents before. But with that, we do have a longer episode for you today. We're going to go through 3 demos. Again, creating and interpreting an ESAT survey. We're going to do policy into presentation as a demo, and then we're going to do talent acquisition related stuff. So if you're here for just one specific aspect of that, check out the chapters that we have in the description. You can go right to what you're looking for. But otherwise, we hope you stay along for the ride because these are 3 really cool use cases. All right, so our first crow's nest for you is the ESAT survey. So, I think this is really good because, like, a lot of organizations, like, you're losing employees and you're not, like, getting a good grasp of why. So rather than being reactive and saying, oh boy, our attrition numbers are going up, what do we need to do? Be proactive and hear it from your employees and find out, what are they liking? What are they not liking? You might be surprised to find that there's some benefits that you didn't think that were, enticing for them that are. And then conversely, you're going to find some things that you didn't think were that big of pain points for them and are. So, kind of helping expose those issues is going to save you money in the long run by retaining your talented folks. So, now if you are, new to this whole thing, like creating an ESAT survey, like you may have something you've used in the past and that's great. But if you don't, or if you want to try to look to sort of improve upon what you've done before, what we're going to do is we're just here in Microsoft Forms. So you just go to forms.office.com to get here. And what I'm going to do is create a new form. And this is essentially a survey that you can send out at the end, but you can create these from scratch. We've certainly done it. It is certainly time consuming. So what you do see here is you've got like similar experience that you do in Word and PowerPoint. We can have it create something for us. So I'm just going to open this up here. Go ahead and start typing. So let's say I want to create an employee satisfaction survey for my US based employees. I want to learn more about what they like and don't or do not like about leadership and our people managers. I also want to learn more about their feelings on the employee engagement activities we have been conducting. And then you got any other ideas what we might want to ask about here? Maybe we could do like, I want to leave at least one question for free form inputs on what we can do better as an organization. And then we'll coach it on, something. So this is kind of, we're giving it the meat, like what do we want in here? But the other thing, we want to be specific here so that we can try to, I think if you're not sure, like, hey, my first time doing an ESAT survey, I want to just see what it does. Like you could just say, hey, I want an ESAT survey and see what it does. That's really good for like stirring the creative juices and kind of getting some ideas going. But in this case, I kind of know what I'm looking for. Let's say I also know this employee, the US based employees are busy. So I'm going to say, I want the survey to be able to be completed in 10 minutes or less. Okay, now let's go ahead and see what we get. So I'm going to go ahead and click through this. It's going to take it a little bit. I mean, it's building out a big survey. So now you can see what it's doing for me here. So I will just take a quick look at it. It's got a employee satisfaction survey. So it's got the title of it. It's got, a kind of a sub-descriptive text here for people to understand what it, set expectations here. And then it's got a ranking system. So it's got the very satisfied to satisfied for leadership team, people managers. So it took what I said, verbatim. How do you feel about the employee engagement activities and what can we do better as an organization? Free form answer. So, overall pretty good. You can simply remove questions that you're like, hey, I don't know if this works. Let's get rid of it. Now I can also coach it now that I've seen my, if that first shot doesn't work, I might want to do multiple shot here. So maybe I want to, add in some additional questions that would be valuable for an ESAT survey. All right, so now it's going to take another stab at it. All right, we can see it's working. Okay, so it added in a few more here, it looks like at the bottom. So now I'm down to 7. Looking good. I think for the sake of, in real life here, I'm probably doing some more editing, more prompting to get what I want. But let's say I'm good with this for now. What I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and select keep it. And now it's, giving me like, this is what it would look like if you're not familiar with forms. This is what it would look like if you're doing it manually. So I can drag the order, I can edit it, change the type of response. I can see it, it's looking a little bit more professional here. Now it says it's just checking the template, generating some suggestions. It says it's got 4 suggestions for me. So it's got refined questions, subtitles for clarity. So maybe I want to just do, I could just go view in Canvas. Okay, now it's telling me here, refine this question, subtitles. Okay, so I can just go ahead, I'll take it. Looks good to me. So yeah, let's say you can go through it if you want. I'm going to go ahead and just say finish reviewing. And it says generate an effective plan to get responses. Cool. I love it. Let's see what the plan is. So I need at least 5 responses by May 30th. And then it says send tailored messages on Teams, send email with tailored messages, track response progress. And I can, right now by default, it's turned off. I can switch this on right here. It can help me. Okay, it knows the form. It can help me draft a tailored email message. It can help me tailor a message for Teams. So this is really, not only is it saving me time with the form, it's helping me strategize on my plan to boost activity here, and it's even willing to help me write the drafts to do it. So really cool one. We're not going to dive into like how now. Let's fast forward here. We distribute the survey. Everybody replies, or at least we get most of the responses. Now we're ready to analyze the results. This is where, we talked in the question of the week, we talked about analyzing or doing like Q&A with data, or, like Q&A with data in Excel. You can export this into Excel and certainly just use Copilot right there to say, hey, help me understand this, or help me build a plan to increase employee satisfaction for questions that, we didn't receive a response we're happy with. So yeah, hopefully you find this helpful. If you're not doing ESAT surveys, this is a really quick and easy way for you to get a good pulse on your employee base, and it's not going to require a lot of time and energy from your side in HR. Or if you're already doing this today, use this as a way to think of new ideas, have Copilot, see what Copilot does for you, and you might find 1 or 2 things that you're going to incorporate in your next survey effort. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something I call policy into presentation. So let's set the ground or the background here. So you've got a long policy. In this case, this is our theoretical company, the Jolly Roger company. They've got a long travel policy. So this is like, what can you book up, airfare class wise, hotel wise, per diem, all this kind of guidelines, how do you get the expenses approved, stuff like that. So a long document, if you're trying to meet with, let's say you revise the policy and you've set up a half-hour meeting with, your sales team that's on the road a lot, or maybe you're doing this for like new hires that are in roles that you're anticipating some travel, rather than having to like open up this like 40-page PDF that's very, very detailed. You'd rather have something that's kind of like a presentation of, let's get to the point and understand, let's answer 95% of your questions. And then for that other 5% that are a little bit more specific, let's go to the policy. So, I think a really good scenario for us here, what I'm going to do is create a presentation based on that, theoretical Jolly Roger company travel policy. So, as usual, I've got 2 ways to interact with Copilot here. I have this icon up here in the upper right to open up that kind of chat experience. And then I've got this button right here to, kind of just get me started. Now I'm going to do a creative presentation with file. And you can still do this on the right pane. I'll tell you about the differences here in just a moment. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just do this / and it popped up for me this Jolly Roger travel policy. It's going to pull up for you the most recent document. So if it was something you were just working on, it's going to show up here. If it's not something you've been working on recently, then you can search for it, or you can go, open the file, copy the file path and put it in here. There's lots of ways to do that. But now let's just say I want to see what it does. Okay, you've got the Word document for you to look at, build me out a presentation on it. Now the difference here, if I did the chat, is I'm not going to see this experience. So if I use chat and say, give me this presentation, it's going to take its best shot at it and build you out slides right away. In here, what it does is it's shown me a framework. So it's got the purpose in here, the travel authorization, booking travel expenses, safety, all that kind of stuff. So it's got all that in here. I can reorder this if I want, just by dragging things around as I see fit. You'll also see this plus icon here. I can add a new topic. Maybe I wanted to get in, like maybe there was some details in that document that should be covered in detail here. So I can do that and refer back to the document. I could also add something in that's new, like where to go if you have questions or something like that. But for the sake of the demo, we're just going to live with this as is, and you can see what it's going to do for me here. As a next step, we've already done a PowerPoint example for you in a previous episode, but it's going to basically build out the framework for you here. It's going to start with sort of the titles of slides and then kind of show you some sub bullet points on what it's going to include material wise in there. And we'll see what Copilot has for us here in just a moment. All right, so it's starting to come together. I can already see there's probably going to be some title slides in here. You can see it's doing like sort of that, the title of the slide first, and then it's going to start adding in some like scope of what's included in that slide. And we are almost done here. Looks like it's just got a few things, and now you can see it's applying a design to it. It's going to pick a design for you by default. You still have the options, like you always do in PowerPoint, to use the designer feature to pick a different one. The other thing that you can do here, super valuable, is if your organization is using like a slide master, like that already has your company's footer, text scheme, all that kind of stuff, then you could easily just go and select the slide, go into the slide master view, select the template you usually use, and it will do it that way. You may have to play around with the formatting a little bit, but very helpful. So you can see it's created a deck for me. It's pulled in some stock images for me that are very relevant, like a guy with nice shoes walking with his bag here. That to me looks like it might be a little big to fit in an overhead storage bin, but we'll leave it to the airlines. Okay, and it's got a layout for me. So again, this is a good way to get started. I'm not saying that this eliminates the need for you to build this type of presentation. Again, if you want to apply a design to it or use your own slide master, you're going to have to do some manual work there. And you also are going to want to look through this and make sure that it's, adequately captured the key points. You might have to add in some points yourself. You might have to delete some points that, maybe you don't feel like you have the time to cover. But again, a great starting place, really saves you a lot of time up front. All right, so our next demo is going to be on job postings when it comes to with Copilot Chat and how it can help you there. So we'll talk first about creating a good job description. So common scenario, I think a lot of us can relate to. You've got a need that comes up and you decide we need to hire for said need. And so what you get is like maybe some field seller or account manager that needs a position for a customer, or maybe it's a business team. They send you just, here's a few points that I need. So Logan, in this case, has sent me an example. It looks like we're looking for a project manager. It says we need 4 to 7 years of experience, has to have Jira experience. PMP is preferred, master's preferred. We'll need to be on site in Costa Mesa 2 times a week, and M365 experience is required. So it looks like, customer we know is on that platform. Now, if I post this on a job forum, boy, I don't know what I'm going to get back, because this is not a lot of details in here, not a lot of clarity. So what I'll do is I'm going to take this job description from Logan. And again, this whole experience we're going to show you right here, Copilot chat works with this as well. So you don't even have to be a fully licensed M365 Copilot user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prompt Copilot and just say, help me write a detailed job description for a project manager role for one, we're not going to say for one of our customers in that case. So, here are the, basic requirements, and I'll put this in here. So I'm going to start with this. So I'm going to take like a multi-shot approach here. So I'm going to have it start and see what it does and then come back to it with some coaching. So, now what it's going to do is it's going to start to put in some things here, and it's going to, make some assumptions. So it says the role, we're seeking a proactive project manager to join our dynamic team, Costa Mesa. So it's got a little bit here. Now, one thing I should point out is if you are a fully licensed M365 Copilot user and you did this same thing in work, it's going to pull in information that's work grounded. So it's going to pull in some background on your company. It's going to pull in some background on what you offer. You can also reference other job descriptions. So, um, you know, there are other things that you can do here. But again, like most of the functionality you can do with just that free version. So again, and I'm using web. So I'm essentially using the free Copilot chat to do this as I demo for you here. Okay. So now it reorganized it to, it's got requirements in here. It's got preferred qualifications in here, and this is looking pretty good. So I think we've got a good amount in here. Let's say that I want to, okay. So it's also suggested for me some additional things. So it says, well, I want to tailor it for a specific industry. Let's add that we want someone with healthcare experience and experience building, let's say CRM, or let's say, let's do this, and familiarity with SDLC, software development lifecycle. Also add that we offer 401k match and a variety of, actually, no, this was a 401k match and childcare reimbursement. Okay, so now it's going to take the job description I already had. I'm beefing it up with some additional prompting here. And now you can see, so what has it done for me? It's given me a lengthy JD based on the brief requirements I had. I've coached it up and given it some feedback on things it can add to it and corrected it with. So now I've got a good JD that's good to go. I'm ready to post this, whatever platforms we use, and we'll see what we get. Now, let's fast forward 2 weeks down the road. Got some candidates come through, screened some. Maybe we've used AI to help us screen some of those profiles. Now I'm ready to interview. So I'm right here. I can, what I can do, and I've certainly done it, is like I might, let's say I've used a chat for a particular JD. Like maybe I've had it help me with the JD, or I've uploaded a JD and asked it questions about like how I might revise it, or what kind of things might be missing from this, or how can I make this more appetizing to, potential employees. Whatever the case may be, I've had some interaction on it. I can simply go back to the chats and look for the previous chat, or in this case, I'm already here. So what I might want to do next is I'm going to say, I am getting ready to interview candidates for this role. Can you suggest interview questions? So here we go. It's going to suggest for me a series of interview questions. So maybe I have some that I use by default for every position that we have in our company, but now I've got some role specific. So it's got questions I can ask about their project management experience, questions that they might about the healthcare industry, technical skills and tools, certifications, methodologies, so on and so forth. So it's already given me a bank of 16 questions. If it's an hour-long interview, I've got more than I need already right here. So again, can really help you at various stages of the new hiring process or the talent acquisition process. And again, this particular demo available to you as long as you're enabled for Copilot Chat, which is free for your organization, so long as you're an M365 or Office 365 customer. So hope you find this one valuable. Think there's a lot of time savings potentially here for you. In today's Journey of the Copilot Compass, we talked about Copilot for HR professionals. So we talked to you a little bit, kind of gave you some reminders and refreshers on SharePoint agents or Copilot agents, and talked to you about how you can stand some of those up to help support your, employee support teams, or, build an onboarding buddy to help, new hires and other people in the organization understand benefits and policies. So then from there, we took 3 demos today. We talked about creating an employee satisfaction survey using Copilot with Microsoft Forms. We also talked about, policy into presentation, taking a travel policy in this case, and a rather lengthy one, and turning it into a, sort of an executive summary PowerPoint type of deck that you could use for, presenting it to the team. And then lastly, we talked about a scenario, a really good one, especially, those of you that are licensed with just Copilot Chat, not the full-blown M365 Copilot license. Really good use case for you in building really robust JDs, as well as helping prepare for interviews once you've gotten to that stage.
Yeah. I think HR really has some of the best use cases for Copilot, especially early on, just some of the kind of just out of the box things that we discussed today. It seems like it could be really helpful to any HR department. And so, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed those demos. And if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. And remember, we have our Q&A sessions every episode. So please give us any questions you have. And remember, new episodes come out every Tuesday. And stay tuned to get a sneak preview of what we have coming out next.
Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.